Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's 100% Metroid Zero Mission. The last part we took out Mother Brain, but the game's not over yet. Now we have Metroid Gear Samus, as I called it last part, a stealth section where we have to avoid as many space pirates as possible. Like I mentioned last part, your charged pistol can freeze them for a few seconds, but you want to avoid their line of sight as much as possible and avoid getting hit by them as much as possible. Why? Because I believe both touching them and getting hit by their lasers does a full energy tank of damage. So I have, let's see, that's 9 energy tanks, counting the original 99 I have. I have 10 hits. That's not good. If you're good at positioning yourself and you know the level design ahead of time, it's actually very possible to get through here with only getting spotted like 2 or 3 times. And to my credit, I try to do that as much as I can, but there's one area where I definitely screw up in this later on. Your main thing here is to run. Samus cannot do much of anything without her power suit right now, because this isn't Brawl or Smash 4, so we just need to run. Now, if only I had those high heels. That was actually probably the thing about Smash Bros. Brawl that made me smile the most. Zero Suit Samus of all things being playable. Because I love this game, and this was actually the game to introduce this design of Zero Suit Samus, so that's why this is in every game afterwards, actually. Because before this, the Zero Suit was either the one-piece swimsuit thing that I've heard is called a Bailey, but I have no idea, or the bikini. And now it's this cool-looking blue bodysuit thing that I much prefer the design of. Now, one thing I haven't quite gone into about this game is that it actually has difficulty modes. 3 of them, to be precise. Easy mode, which I believe is just reduced damage from enemies, and they have reduced HP as well. Normal mode, which is what you're seeing. And then there's hard mode. Hard mode is a bit more specific. Hard mode, well, first off, these are spotlights, just like in Metal Gear. Touching them triggers an alert, so don't do that. Hard mode, in terms of what that does, first off, it's only unlocked after beating the game. It's basically a New Game Plus kind of thing. After you beat the game, you can select your file. It'll give you a start over option, and then you can select hard mode there. Hard mode, damage you take is doubled as you'd expect. Enemies are often higher in number and replaced with higher HP versions of themselves, and upgrades are less effective, which is the big kicker. The exact same amount of items is still in the game, but what they do is lessened. For instance, out of the 12 energy tanks, each one will only give you 50 energy, so you'll end up with a total of 6 energy tanks instead. Missile tanks add 2 rather than 5. Super missile tanks and one other kind of tank that we'll see later on this part, actually, only give you 1 instead of what the original do. Additionally, there are some map changes, notably the removal or blockage of some save points, so you're going to be saving a lot less often. Hard mode is a really fun challenge, I am not going to lie, but it's debatable whether or not it's worth it. I've done playthroughs of hard mode because I've gotten every single ending image, and some of those require playing hard mode, and I can tell you for a fact, it's a fun challenge, but only do it if you're up to it, because it is annoying. Either way, I've been skipping over that because I was talking about something else. We are now in the second half of Chozodia, which is the actual Chozo part of Chozodia, because the other half, which is mapped, is just the space pirate mothership. And the second half of Chozodia is a bit more annoying to go through, because if you look at the map, it's entirely green, meaning you have no map for this area. However, it's a lot more linear to compensate for that. There are very few wrong pathways you can go down. There's a lot more ways to screw up with space pirates, though. This is probably still the most memorable part of Zero Mission, though. Probably because it's the namesake of the game, but I absolutely love this section. My early playthroughs, I hated it because I was dying a lot, but nowadays, when I'm practiced, it's a pretty fun adventure. We also get these little eyeballs, which are a secondary way to spot you. One thing I'm not sure about, because I rarely ever get spotted by them, is if you look when I'm hanging down, my foot is very visible. I'm not sure if you can get spotted by your feet, because I never got caught by my feet, because I always try to get out of the way. Something very interesting as well about this game's development is that this was actually the last game developed by Nintendo R&D 1 before Nintendo did some restructuring. And in case you're wondering who R&D 1 is, well, that was the development team headed by Gunpei Yokoi, the creator of Metroid himself. Notable things they made were Metroid, Kid Icarus, all the Mario Land games, And all the Wario Land games as well, I believe. I don't think they did Wario World, though. But this was one of the last games they made, if not the last, and that's really sad, because they made some damn good games. Mind you, after this, Metroid games, Other M aside, and Federation Force were basically Retro Studios games, because that's the Prime trilogy, and I think Prime Hunters was, and Pinball were done by Retro. I'm not entirely sure about that, actually. But, it's sad to see a good dev team go down like that, even though they obviously still worked for the company, they just weren't in R&D 1. I love the background here, by the way. I love all this game's backgrounds, but that one's always stuck out to me because it's so ominous looking. Also, the music here is really good. It's a very tense theme. It constantly keeps you on the tip of your toes. Also, even though the little area that indicates that I'm completely invisible to these things is over there, this thing never goes down to the bottom of this little passageway, so you're safe here. I'm also not sure if the top of Samus's head is visible right there, because I've never gotten cut by that. Mostly because it's a freaking even more obvious version of the spotlight from Metal Gear. This is one of the more annoying rooms. I think you can get through here completely stealthing, but I've never done it. Mostly because I have better things to do. It is very possible just to run through this entire area completely saying screw off to the space pirates, but I don't recommend it. Also, here's an interesting thing. If you freeze that space pirate and just hold left, you will actually lose the alert once you get towards the end. Sadly, if you hesitate too long, you'll get into it again because that guy is still crawling after you. I've done it, though, that I can run away from that guy and then just get to these next few rooms without an alert. Mind you, you're coming towards the end of where the alerts are going to be a problem, but I would still recommend avoiding as much damage as possible, obviously, because I have 5 hits left, and I'd rather not take any damage more than I need to. Oh, God. Get away. Nope. Run. Ow. 3 hits. 2 hits. And I am safe. I have died right here before, and that sucks because the last save point for this section is right coming up. In fact, we're nearing the end of the Zero Suit section. On the whole, it's actually a pretty tough section on your first playthrough because you have no idea where you're going and how to avoid the space pirates. And you're likely to have less health than I do at this point, so you could get killed very easily here. It's easy for me, but that's only because I've played it so many times. Well, this song sounds different. Almost kind of hopeful. Time for us to fight our next boss fight, ourselves. On a serious note, this is the Ruins Test, also known as the God of War and the Spirit of the Mural. The way this boss fight works is that you need to fully charge your pistol, and whenever that logo shows up, shoot it. They give the first shot of it to you as an easy one, and then the thing starts moving. Also, is it just me, or does the design of this thing look kind of familiar? I wonder what that's about. This fight, though, is basically just an avoidance battle because damage-wise, I believe it will only do an energy tank to half an energy tank. So you aren't that much fear of damage, but if you shoot it whenever you're in the center of that ball, you will take damage, so don't do that. Wait for the logo, and you should win fairly easily. And we get our suit back, as well as all the items. However, we also get the unknown items. The plasma beam. This powerful beam can pierce through multiple enemies. The gravity suit. Reduces damage from foes, enables free movement in water, stops lava damage. And the space jump. Somersault continually in the midair. Use a mid-somersault to jump again. It's time to go kick ass and chew bubblegum, but we're all out of bubblegum. Hey, space pirates, screw off. It's a power trip, and I love this section. You can finally completely just screw over the pirates. And I love the remix of Brinstar we get in this section. It's called the Final Attack. I believe it's just now the Chozodia theme. But it's such a good remix of Brinstar. But it's also now that we can technically start the game's cleanup, because now that we have every ability in the game, well, -1, we can get every item in the game. We still need to go pick up that last ability, but we're going to be picking up some items along the way anyway, including doing this Shine Spark chain, which is a bit specific. The worst part of it's actually coming up right now, because you need to stop right before that wall, and that's pretty tricky. And by Shine Sparking all the way to the right, we get an energy tank. Thankfully, I managed to make the amount of pickups I need to get pretty minimal, because, let's see, I have 16 super missiles left until max, because the max is 30, 5 missile tanks, I think, and 2 energy tanks, as well as the rest of that one other power-up we haven't seen yet. So, like, less than 30 pickups, I believe. And we're going to be getting the rest of them with the next 2 parts, because this part, for the rest of it, is getting that last item and a little bit of cleanup. And next part, if you're just going for the ending, I recommend skipping, because it's all cleanup. With that said, though, in terms of our next destination, we are actually going to be heading back towards the Space Pirate Mothership half of Chozodia, because there's a section over there we haven't been to yet, and that requires us to head over to its cockpit. And as for where that cockpit is, it's in the top left of the section. We weren't over there yet because there was a missile door in our way. But we have missiles back now, so let's go. Okay, you can live in lava. That's something new. Actually, yeah, how the hell are they able to live in lava? Huh. Well, actually, you know what? I'll let that one slide, because they could survive in acid in Super Metroid. In that one room in Ridley's lair. So it's not that far-fetched. The one thing I don't like about the section, I don't think you can do anything to destroy these pillars. These little blocking things that go off with the alarms. And that's kind of stupid. I understand why they didn't, because there's a couple chances, not opportunities, situations where there's power-ups locked between them if you get it into an alarm section, but it's kind of annoying. I just love this entire section, though, because especially if it's your first playthrough and you were dying constantly in the Space Pirate Chase sections, this is just catharsis. You can completely screw them over. And I love power trips like that. I still recommend using the save rooms, though, to restore your ammo if you need to, because it's pretty useful. But in terms of where we're going to be going for a lot of our cleanup next parts, well, you may have remembered I already mentioned that with getting that last super missile in Brinstar, we've completed already both Ridley and Brinstar. So basically, we're heading back to Kraid for one thing, Criteria for a few things, Norfair for a few things, and the rest is all here in the rest of this part of Chozodia. And as you can see, there's a lot we haven't been to yet. There's not an item in every single room, thankfully, but we're going to be getting a lot. Oh yeah, you just saw that there. That's something that can happen, and that can actually be kind of an assist during the stealth section. Space pirates can kill each other. If you time and position themselves just right, they can hurt each other with their lasers. And that's pretty good if you're in a case where you're surrounded by them and you need to get rid of a few of them. See if you can position them where they'll shoot each other. And that's a master pirate. They're kind of I guess a mini-boss. They just take a lot more shots to kill. That's about it, really. Don't worry about the alarms anymore, though, because you can get through pretty easily. Though those little atom things, which were also in the wrecked ship in Super Metroid, can hurt a bit. And that's actually a major fan theory, now that I think about it. Around the time that the Space Pirate Mothership was either revealed for the game or first shown off, I forget the exact specifics, people theorized that this was actually the wrecked ship in Super Metroid. And it makes a lot of sense because positioning-wise, well, you'll see eventually next part of the map, we're basically right next to Criteria, and that's where the wrecked ship was in Super Metroid, but Sakamoto, the director for the game, said, no, it's not. I don't think it is, at least. And I'm in the group that thinks it should be because it just makes too much sense. But it's weird. Also, I'm going after a super missile right now, On my checklist, this is not the right super missile. I was actually supposed to wait until next part to get, later on, to get this. Because I could have come through the door on the left instead on the way out of this area. The actual super missile I was supposed to go for was 2 rooms back. In fact, I'll be passing by it on the way through. Because you might notice on the top right of the mini-map now, right above me, there's a section of the map I haven't been to. There's a super missile up there. That was just me thinking ahead, and that's my bad. But yeah, now that we have the ability to say screw you to the space pirates, this area goes by really quickly. Also, there's a ship on the map for some reason in this area. Keep that in mind for the finale. Just call it a hunch. Honestly, though, the space pirate mothership half of Chozodia is kind of uninteresting because it all looks the same. And while there are some pretty interesting puzzles on it, once you get your gravity suit, you're just going through here to go to the final boss, really, because if you weren't going for cleanup, you could probably be done the game in about 8 minutes from now. Because you go get the thing that opens the yellow doors, then you can go after the final boss. In fact, if you look at the map, the final boss was technically already on the map. It's the very top of the mothership. So if you're just going for the final boss, do that. I have other stuff to do, though. Also, the Gonk droids are back, if you didn't notice. Yet again, enforcing the fact that this was more than likely the wrecked ship, but apparently it's not. Mind you, Sakamoto also doesn't consider the Prime games canon, which I think is all sorts of bullcrap. Because the Prime games were fantastic, and I don't see a reason why they shouldn't be. Aside from maybe the entirety of Prime 2, Dark Samus aside, because Prime 2 had some interesting concepts in it and some really funny logs, but god damn, Aether is just such a boring planet. The Luminoth were interesting, though, as were the Ing. Either way, we could head towards the top of that room I was just in, which is the actual cockpit, but as you can see, I completely neglected to mention that guy stealing that power bomb from underneath us. So let's go and grab the actual thing. Power bombs, as I'm about to pick it up, work the exact same way they did in Fusion. When you're in Morph Ball mode, hold the R button and then press B to lay them. Thankfully, they're nowhere near as loud, but they are still really useful in the open yellow hatches. That is what the rest of the power-ups in the game are, basically, because there's 5 super missiles left, about 3 or 4 missiles. The max amount of power bombs is 18. And that's what most of the collectibles are going to be from here on out, because that's just what the most of them are at this point. But with that, I'm going to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 6, it's cleanup time. We'll be going all around the world and getting the rest of the ends before coming back here to do some last-minute stuff. See you guys then.